Healing yourself is a huge part of healing the world. As a matter of fact, they are directly proportional to each other. This is the mathematical symbol in the middle for proportional to. It means that as the individual and all the individuals that comprise the world go, so goes the quality of the whole world in which we live. They are reflections of each other. That's what as above, so below means. This little equation right here on the screen, this is a mathematical equation. The individuated consciousness is proportional to the entirety of the world. As all of the individuated consciousnesses improve or do not improve, either they improve or they degrade, the quality of the whole condition of our world either improves or degrades. They're directly proportional, and they can never be actually separated from each other. If you don't understand that, you really don't understand the occult at all. You don't understand the esoteric. You don't understand how the universe works. This is part of worldview healing. To understand this slide is part of healing the worldview. It's not only explaining how healing works in the aggregate to heal the species and the world condition. It's part of worldview healing itself to understand this basic equation, this basic law in nature. And again, this is why they are used as these concepts in the tarot. The soul is a reflection of the entire world and vice versa. In the aggregate, all of the souls are a reflection of the human condition. As they degrade, the human condition gets worse. As they improve, the human condition gets better. This should really be simple common sense, folks. Unfortunately, it is not, and most people do not understand it at all and have a very difficult time with it. But to understand this is to improve one's own worldview. The greatest requirement for human freedom is true goodness. So once again, this is preparatory concepts for doing shadow work later. But if you don't understand this, your worldview is completely skewed and off. And sadly, some people want to do shadow work to improve things for other areas of life, not just spiritual life, and assisting with the human condition and the great work of ending slavery and tyranny in our world. Real shadow work is about this factor, folks. You know, it's not just about, becoming a better performer or a better athlete or a better, artist or whatever. Could you do shadow work for things like that? Absolutely. That's not what this seminar is ultimately about. Could it be used for lesser things like that? Yes. But this seminar is about getting the human condition out of the state of slavery, which it is in. And if you don't understand that, again, you're totally spiritually asleep. I mean, like gone, like NPC character asleep. Okay? Like non-player character in a video game. Like, this is about getting your worldview up to the level of consciousness where you understand, hey, the people of this planet are enslaved, and that's a cosmic fucking crime. And that needs to be righted, and justice needs to be brought to that dynamic. And that's what true objective morality and true goodness is about. This isn't about being self-righteous and, projecting your form of morality. This is aligning your behavior to true and objective morality. This isn't about virtue signaling. True morality, not religious morality, not subjective morality, true objective morality under the laws of nature, which there is such a thing. And again, I'm not here to redeliver the natural law presentation. You can go back and watch that and learn it. True morality, objective morality under natural law, is completely different than religious morality. So true morality and freedom are also directly proportional to each other. This is the law of freedom. As morality increases, freedom increases. Okay? So this is reflected in natural law, the moral laws of the universe. As morality increases in the aggregate, freedom increases in the aggregate. Why is freedom declining? Because morality is declining. True objective morality, not subjective religious morality. I'll say that over and over again. I'm not talking about the morality of any religious tradition. They're all screwed up. They're all obfuscating true morality. All of them, bar none, no exception. All religions obfuscate true objective morality. If you don't understand that, you're basically an NPC who's asleep. Totally spiritually unaware. Yet this is why that worldview has to change and heal first before anything can be done. You're not going to do any healing without healing that worldview. You'll do much lesser, tiny incremental healing that isn't healing in a big way that's going to assist the world in any way. You're going to heal for your own selfish interests. And could you do that? Like I said, yeah, you could, but it's not what this seminar is about. This seminar is about healing yourself so that you could help heal the world and bring real justice, which is the natural law card in the tarot deck, justice. As morality declines, freedom declines. Therefore, it should be the aspiration for any being, not only for the students of this seminar, for any being that claims to want a greater degree of freedom in their lives, or for anyone, to perform shadow work upon themselves to become a more moral individual who is more directly involved in the current war for freedom that is before all of us. This is why the potential student, should want to improve themselves, should want to do shadow work upon themselves, because they realize they're not in the fight for freedom deeply enough. They're not contributing deeply enough. They don't have enough skin in the game. They're not putting enough effort forward. They're not dedicated enough. And you want to do shadow work to improve all of those lacking qualities within yourself so that you get on the battlefield and you start contributing and start making a difference, a real difference. And you know what? That's why we're losing, because too few people are doing this. We're getting our asses beat mercilessly senseless in the war for freedom. I mean, tyranny is around every corner. If you don't see that and you don't understand it, I can't even imagine how asleep you sleepwalk through life. We're going to talk about not sleepwalking through life. Okay? So this is ultimately about becoming a better version of yourself so that you could help heal and improve our world and defeat and conquer tyranny and slavery. True morality is not the same as religious morality. Once again, one of the most important concepts I could ever possibly introduce. If you don't understand this, you are not spiritually awake. The word religion is derived from the Latin verb religare, which means to bind, to hold back, to thwart from forward progress. Let me say that again. The word religion is derived from the Latin verb religare. And yes, it is. It is not from any other word. It comes from the Latin verb religare. And that could be a binding to truth, right? You could have a reuniting and a tying together with truth. That's the only form of the only positive definition and connotation of religion. In general, the word religion means a system of thought designed to hold you back and thwart your progress to the truth. So the word religare in Latin, which definitely is the etymological origin of the word religion, no other Latin word. It means to bind, to hold back, to thwart from forward progress by tying, as with a rope. Okay? It's putting a leash on your consciousness. That is what all forms of religion do. Now, when I say the word religion, you should not only think or consider big world religions, cultural religious traditions, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam. That is not only what I mean by religion. It is any mental, spiritual, or sociological control system based in unchallenged, erroneous, and dogmatic beliefs. And that system is specifically designed to hold back, not to improve, the progress of human consciousness by preventing it from recognizing and accepting reality and truth, by receiving truth. Once again, the broadcast signal could be at 1,000,000 watts or greater. But if the antenna and receiver is somehow broken or damaged or traumatized, don't expect it to receive the truth. This is what shadow work. Shadow work is going into the radio and making that radio the best, most receptive radio it can be, and then tuning it to the truth frequency. That's one of the best ways I can allegorically or metaphorically describe shadow work. You got a busted old radio that's been traumatized and practically defeated and is barely working and bringing in a ton of fuzz, not clearly at all. And then you go in, you fix all the internal components, you get that radio whipped into great shape, it's ready to receive, and you tune that to the correct frequency, and you're off to the races. Then you're really making a dent, and you're really making progress with yourself and in healing the world. So religion can be attachment to money. Religion can be attachment to your job. Religion can be believing in authority. Religion can be total attachment to politics. Religion can be you believe that the slavery of government should just go on and on and on, and that it's not slavery, and that it's necessary and moral in any capacity, and that it's not coercion and violence. See, that's what's holding people back. Religious thought, believing in government, believing in the love of money, the obsession with money. How about religion could be I'm obsessed with comfort and control. How about that as a religion? Comfort and pleasure, not control. But yeah, hey, control is a religion. Wanting to control everything, that's a religion. Anything that's going to hold your consciousness back from pursuit, reception, and attainment of truth is religion. It's a cage for the mind, ladies and gentlemen. It's the head cage. It is not just the big religious traditions culturally. Are those religions? Yes, they are. They do the same thing. But religion as a word, as a concept, encompasses much more than just the traditional religious cultural traditions. Be aware of that and understand if I use the word religion or religious, I am not just talking about those traditions. I am talking about any system of mental control. Religion is mind control. That's it. And not for the good, for the negative. It holds you back. It thwarts your progress toward truth. And it will certainly thwart your progress toward the betterment of the self and self-actualization through shadow work. No question about it. Religion will destroy that progress. Not just thwart it, it will completely annihilate it. To illustrate how religious morality and true natural law, objective morality, are two different things, I have emphasized and made a whole separate presentation, which it's not my intent to fully go over that presentation. I just want to present this quickly. The 7 deadly sins as defined by church so-called Christianity. I call it Constantinianity or churchianity. I've given a whole 5.5-hour long presentation called Fake Ass Christians. And I gave another presentation called The Real 7 Deadly Sins, which are not here on the left. They're the ones on the right. This is what the church teaches you are sins, deadly sins. Pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, and greed, which are either forms of internal emotions, self-indulgences, or in the case of sloth, a state of inaction. When the real 7 deadly sins have a completely different qualitative aspect, even in the sound of the words. You look at pride, gluttony, sloth, lust, anger, jealousy, and greed versus murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, deception. Those are the real 7 deadly sins. All forms of theft. Murder is the theft of life without right to do so. Assault is the theft of bodily wellness without the right to do so. Rape is the theft of someone's sexual autonomy, which no one has the right to steal. Theft is the stealing of physical property. Trespass is the theft of in-property safety, meaning when you're on your ground or your lair or in your home, in your car, no one has the right to just come in and take your safety from you in that property, in that personal space. That's trespass. Coercion, the theft of free will, which is what all government is. Government isn't suggestions. Government is commands upon a population. And that's setting up one class as the rulers and the commanders, and the other class as the slaves or the people who must obey. And that's the removal of free will. Authority is the usurping and removal of free will. If you don't understand that, once again, I actually feel pity, because you can't even grasp the concept that if I claim authority over another being, I'm saying you don't have free will to make your own decisions. You have to do what I tell you. I make decisions for you, and you must obey, or I'll conduct violence or send someone else who might be willing to conduct violence to you at my behest. That's coercion. That's what government is. That's why government's nothing but violence. And that's why it's always immoral. And it's authority is the theft of free will. It's just another way of saying coercion. And people who believe in it are bad people. They're people who are engaging in one of the true seven deadly sins. The transgressions against natural law, violations of someone's natural rights. Deception, the final one, is theft of informed judgment through willfully lying and deceiving people. So these are the real natural law transgressions, true immoral behaviors that are violations of natural law and other beings' natural rights. Once again, they're all actions that are done to others, okay? That's why it's not called murder if you kill yourself. It's called suicide. You did that to your own vessel, your own vehicle, your own property. If you kill somebody else, you're doing it to their property. You don't assault yourself. You can conduct self-harm, but assault is something you do to somebody else that harms their physical wellness. You're not going to rape yourself, right? Rape is done to someone else. These are behaviors that are done to another being. That's why a right is an action or a behavior that does not initiate harm to another sentient being, and a wrong is a behavior which does initiate harm to another sentient being. These definitions should be self-evident and common sense everywhere in the world, and sadly they are not. They are obfuscated by religion. They are obfuscated by government. They are obfuscated by media. And even people in alternative broadcasting, they don't want to talk about the real difference between nonsensical, garbage, religious morality versus true natural law-based morality. And never the twain shall meet. They are not the same, ladies and gentlemen. They are not the same. They never will be the same. If you study the religious variant of so-called morality, you're getting a cheap knockoff. And then what people will do, because they know that's a dumb, cheap knockoff, is they throw the baby out with the bathwater and they say, oh, there's no morality, or natural law doesn't apply, or it doesn't exist. Nonsense. These are the real, true violations of morality right here on the right side. The 7 true deadly sins: murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception. And someone conducting shadow work upon themselves, the real reason they would want to improve themselves is to improve the human condition by teaching this difference between these two forms of morality. So-called morality by religion, and every religious tradition has their own insane variant and completely untrue variant. And then there's true natural law-based morality, which exists in nature and is eternal and objective. And we are always working in conjunction either with it or against it to receive the quality of our shared human experience called the human condition. That's why you should want to conduct shadow work upon yourself, to get your head clear, to get involved in the battle, to teach true morality so that there could be a higher level of freedom and justice in our world. If you don't understand that, you're not spiritually awake. And again, the people in this seminar should understand it, should have somewhat of an understanding of the prerequisite work that I've conducted with natural law and what on earth is happening. The people listening online, if you're not familiar with those concepts, go and watch my 8.5-hour natural law presentation, natural law seminar. You can look it up under. It's available at my website, whatonearthishappening.com. Not doing shadow work is just like moving furniture on a sinking ship. You can rearrange it all day, the ship's still going to the bottom of the ocean. And this is what, people are like. They're sitting at the end of one end of the boat that's sinking, and they're all going to be going down to the bottom of the ocean, and they're saying, boy, I'm sure glad that hole isn't on our end, thinking that like they're going to be spared. When other people are frantically trying to do the work to, bail out the species from sinking and destroying itself, and they're not getting any help. And then the other people think they know how reality works. And they're trying to tell the people that are actually doing the work how it works. What work do they have to show for anything? This is why I say people want to complain about my work. You earn the right to complain about my work. When you have enough work of your own and you have a body of knowledge that you've put forward that is truthful and that is objective and does work and will work. And that's what I've done. And yes, it's true. And yes, it would work. Not enough people understand it. Not enough people apply it. That's the only problem, folks. This is what I've been trying to explain to people. The problem is not me. The problem is not my work. And that's not an ego statement. If it were, I'd say my work needs significant refinement. My work's been exceptional and still is exceptional. The problem is other people don't understand. Maybe they just have low IQ. Maybe they're just too religiously inclined. Maybe they're just fucking hard-headed. And they're stubborn because they think they know better. And when it really comes to them showing what their knowledge is, you know what it always comes back? A big fat fucking goose egg. This right here. A nothing burger. Okay? So once again, people earn a right to complain about my work or, say, oh, you're way off about this, man. This is what you need to understand. Put your work out there for the whole world to see, like I have mine. That's why I've done it. I have confidence that it's correct. I don't even have confidence that it's correct. I'm assured that it is because I've applied the trivium to it, which we're going to talk about. And there's a way of knowing whether you're correct or incorrect. You don't have to just take it on faith or belief. That's just more fucking religion, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what I've just told you I'm trying to avert and destroy. I don't want belief. I don't want you to believe me about any of this stuff. I want you to know it definitively and objectively. And you can do that. That is possible. One of the profound introductory concepts here in this body of work with shadow work is that shadow work is really a part of and an integral part of and it extends and extrudes throughout the entire process of occult initiation, of which there are 5 general steps or processes, and they are as follows. So every occult tradition in the history of humanity generally applied these 5 principles or concepts, or stages, if you will. The first is stop lying. And this is, even if you have been deceived, get the grammar and follow the trivium method through to its conclusion to the point where you are reasonably certain that you're not deceived before you start putting bad information out into the world or saying the people who are putting good information out into the world are wrong, because then you're essentially engaging in deception. And we talked about that in the pre-class. And the answer to that is you conduct the trivium process to the extent that you know you're not incorrect and you know that you are correct. But stop lying. Stop propagating nonsense out into the world. And the number one place to stop doing that before you even desist and stop saying lies or deception or bad information to anybody else is you have to stop lying to yourself. Especially stop lying to yourself. You cannot tell yourself untruths, lies, make excuses, etc. if you're really going to be conducting true shadow work. You must be brutally honest with yourself. We're going to talk about that concept when we get to methods. Number 2 in the steps of occult initiation is stop dreaming. Dreaming means that you're engaging in a form of cognitive dissonance, whereas your thoughts, emotions, and actions are not in congruency with each other. largely this means that your behaviors are out of alignment with what you say you know and with how you feel internally in your state of emotions. If your behaviors don't align and aren't in congruency, they aren't congruent with your thoughts and your actions, then you're in an internal state of internal contradiction or cognitive dissonance with yourself. You cannot go through life sleepwalking like that. You cannot say you know something and then don't take action in the way that proves that you know it. This is the idea that to know and not to do is actually not to know. You can say you know all you want, and if you're not taking the right action to back up that knowledge, do you really have that knowledge? The answer is you do not. You're just claiming that you do. So that's stop dreaming. Don't see the world through rose-colored glasses. Don't even be black-pilled. That's a form of dreaming. Oh, nothing can be done. An infinite amount can be done. You just have to learn what it is and then do it. This is the problem with most people. They throw their hands up and they're like, oh, I don't know what can be done. What can be done about all of this? Like I said, billions of things. It could go on and on and on and on. But are you learning those techniques? Are you practicing those techniques? Are you actually doing them in your daily life? Or are you sitting back throwing your hands up saying there's nothing I can do? Which is the ultimate form of excuse making and dreaming. So you got to stop lying, especially to yourself, and you got to stop dreaming. That's living in a state of cognitive dissonance and denial about what truly can be done. And then part of resolving those things is truly learning how to think, not what to think through government indoctrination centers laughingly called schools, because that's all they are. They don't teach you how to think, they teach you what to think, and then hammer what they want you to think into your mind through all this, 150,000 hours or whatever it is, maybe less than that, 50,000 hours of compulsory schooling. And you come out not being able to think. You come out with no true critical thinking skills through the trivium. So learning how to think involves truly understanding the trivium process of truth discovery methodology. This is grammar, logic, and rhetoric, or in the ancient traditions, it was known as knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, which we are going to talk about. So if you don't learn how to think through the trivium, once again, you're just going to be one of these people who's like an NPC, walking around, sleepwalking, dreaming, and lying to themselves and other people. Number 4 in this process, and when we go through the shadow work methods, aspects of all these things will be touched upon repeatedly. Number 4, live in the present moment. What is true present moment awareness? It doesn't mean you just live a fleeting life where you don't focus in on anything and you just go with whatever. It means you truly show up. If you're going to do something, you do it to the very best of your ability. Were my slides just thrown together out of nowhere? Or did I sit for months painstakingly making every single thing that I want to see on the screen as best as I can do it? And then thinking about the concepts I'm going to present while they're on the screen to the best of my ability. This is what real present moment awareness is. It's showing up in learning mode so that you're going to absorb information and take knowledge into yourself and gather the grammar that you need as a prerequisite. And you're really going to be present. Your mind isn't going to be elsewhere. How many people will take this seminar today and they're distracted? Kids are yelling. They didn't make preparations properly. They have tech problems. Oh, I got to go do this thing. I got to pay this bill or whatever. And their mind's scattered and all over the fucking place. You're not going to get any true value from this because you haven't even taught yourself how to show up yet. There are people that are in the seminar right now that aren't present. They're not there. They're somewhere else. They're somewhere else here. Here is where they're somewhere else. And you show up in a state like that, you're wasting your time. You're not making any headway. You're not making any progress. You're reverting when you do that. That's why this idea of multitasking, it's bullshit. You can't multitask. You can only focus on one thing at one time. That's it. Blanket statement. Get as offended as you want. If you don't believe that that's true, you're wrong. Multitasking is bullshit. Come and put all of your presence into what you are doing. Don't just do the thing, become the thing that you are doing while you are doing it. That's true present moment awareness. And most people have no conceptualization of it whatsoever. And then number 5 in the steps of occult tradition initiation was activate the physical body. They didn't want wimps. They didn't want wishy-washy people. They didn't want people who weren't willing to make sacrifice. They wanted tough people. They wanted physically able, tough people. You know? Like I said, there's probably 95% of people I have ever encountered, greater than that really, 98% or more of people that I've ever encountered in the freedom movement, I would never put a gun in your hand in a combat situation and say, let's fight back to back, because you get me dead. And I mean fast. Fast as fuck. You'd get me dead. And I don't intend to get dead. I intend to survive even if it comes to a physical conflagration of some kind. Because I'm a living, walking library of knowledge. I'm too important to just get dead in 30 seconds. And guess what? Most people in this movement, they'd get you dead in 30 seconds. Because they're wishy-washy, weak motherfuckers. And I don't care how you want to look at that or hear it. It's true anyway. You got to build the physical body. You got to be healthy. You got to understand nutrition. You got to do some exercise. You got to know how to defend yourself. If you don't know how to do those things, if you're not doing those things, you're just letting one important aspect of real spirituality, the vehicle for the consciousness, go by the wayside. And you ain't doing anybody any favors, least of all yourself. So we'll talk about all of these things in the shadow work methods and practice. See, the very first thing, the very first concept in shadow work is stop lying, especially to yourself. That first part of occult initiation. And the Shakespearean words, who most people generally agree that Shakespeare was either a guild of writers that were very active in occult traditions of their day, particularly Rosicrucianism, or perhaps was Francis Bacon himself, who at the time that the Shakespearean plays were basically written and propagated, was the actual grand master of the Order of the Rose Cross, the Rosicrucian order. And if Shakespeare would have said instead of to thy, this above all, to thine own self be honest, then the very occult initiatory framework for what he was saying would have been more readily understood. But he said, this above all, to thine own self be true. And then most people think that means, oh, be true to yourself and double down on everything, even if you're wrong. You got to be who you are at all times. And that's not what Shakespeare meant. He meant that the very first part of doing anything in life that's worth doing and succeeding at it is you must be honest with yourself. The first step of occult initiation, practice. So the very first maxim of occult initiation in every occult mystery school tradition throughout all of human history was to be honest with yourself. Being willing to lie to yourself means that you are willing to lie to others as well. And then no one's getting the truth or benefiting. All are deceived. And that's largely the human condition right now. All forms of human degradation begin with disconnection from truth. All forms of human degradation begin with disconnection from truth. Every single occult tradition emphasized this fact by telling their initiates that above all else, their very first duty was to the truth and was to stop lying to themselves. So, if Shakespeare, the guild of writers of the Rosicrucian order, Francis Bacon, whoever you really believe that he was to say, this above all, be honest with yourself, that would have been a lot more direct than saying, to thine own self be true. Because in the parlance of their day, it was understood that meant be honest with yourself first and above all else. In today's parlance, we think of stay true to yourself, be true to yourself as no matter whether you're right or wrong, just double down and just keep going with what you originally said or thought. And that's not what it means. This above all, to thine own self be honest. Be honest with yourself. That's what it truly meant. And that is the first step and process of shadow work. Without true, brutal self-honesty, no shadow work can be done. Why do most people choose to lie to themselves? And believe me, most people choose to lie to themselves. They are bullshitters with themselves. But more than they bullshit with anybody else, they bullshit themselves. Most human beings do not consistently maintain a connection to truth, especially when it comes to their perception of themselves and their own behavior. And this is what I've been saying in my work, folks. I'm my own harshest critic. I'm the person who goes straight to looking at myself before I do anything else. And when I say, when I know that I have an inadequacy, when I know I'm not operating or doing things to my maximum efficiency or truth, I'm the first person that calls my own bullshit out, usually. I will say, I know that I have a shortcoming in that regard, and I haven't worked it out fully yet. I know what my own shortcomings are because I know myself. And I don't lie about it, right? You don't say to yourself, you know what, that problem's not there. If the problem's there, you say the problem is present. And I fully acknowledge the presence of the problem. You don't say it's not there and I don't have that problem. That's lying to yourself. You just say, I know that that's where I'm at. I know that I have that problem. I know that I have to continue working upon that issue or that aspect of the self or that aspect of the personality. It is no surprise, least of all to myself, because I don't lie to myself. This is where I'm different than other people who are in the freedom movement, who present, who broadcast. I'm the first person who tells you I'm very rough around the edges. I'm the furthest thing from perfect, but I have done very great things. Not gonna lie in either respect. I'm not perfect. I have problems. I acknowledge the problems. I acknowledge when they're still present. I acknowledge that I have work to do. There's no problem with that. Do I look embarrassed? Do I look like that's the end of the world for me? No, I'm just going to come out and say it like that because I'm being truthful. I'm being honest. I don't try to tell you I've conquered a problem when I haven't. The things that I have discovered and do know, I'm also not going to be falsely humble about and say, oh, gee, I don't know, maybe it's that. I'm going to tell you when I've arrived at knowledge. And I'm proud of that. That's because that wasn't just magically gifted to me. A hand didn't come down from the clouds and go, here, Mark, here's everything you need to fucking know. It was hard-won knowledge with tremendous effort and sacrifice extended by me to the universe to be a vessel of reception for that knowledge. And not everybody does that. And I did that exceedingly well. Once again, that's why I'm qualified to talk on these topics. That's why the things that I'm presenting here today, I'm so proud of how this presentation came out. Once again, you can say, oh, he's tooting his own horn again. I don't really care what you say. It's true nonetheless. I put together a dynamite presentation. This is going to have the information that people need to know on this topic that hardly anybody even breaches the discussion of this stuff, let alone goes into depth. This is sorely needed, and it's sorely necessary for people to understand. Why do people want to lie? Well, it ultimately comes down to they choose to continue to lie to themselves to create a never-ending stream of excuses. That's what people really want to do. They want excuses not to begin, to initiate themselves. They want excuses not to begin doing the required spiritual work upon themselves, so that they continue to lie to themselves. See, it's a feedback loop. It's an endless looping cycle of don't tell yourself the truth, make excuses, don't do the work, don't tell yourself the truth again. Keep lying to yourself. And so you kick the can down the line. You pass the buck along. And as soon as you do that, you're stuck in a cycle of degradation and of not improving and not actualizing. People believe this will give them an excuse not to get involved in the ongoing spiritual warfare taking place on earth, because many of them are just, let's just say it how it really is, folks. Many of these people are just pure fucking cowards. And I guarantee you there's people who have shown up here today who are cowards. They're not cowards in the sense that they're willing to listen, but when it comes to actually making these changes and actually getting on the spiritual battlefield, they're fucking cowards. And that's the only way it can be said. And you got to conquer cowardice within yourself. So wherever your shortcoming is, you have to be honest, and you can't make any excuses. Right there, that's going to tune most people out. That's going to make most people hate you for saying it. But that's where it has to begin. You make no progress unless it begins there. Okay?